Welcome back to our channel, where we dive deep into the heart of Genoa City's most explosive dramas. Today is a thrilling day for soap fans, as the power dynamics we thought were set in stone are about to be shattered in the most spectacular way imaginable. Let us unpack the latest, jaw-dropping developments. Genoa City is a town built on deeply buried secrets, where corporate empires are forged and destroyed by the mere stroke of a pen. The legacy of Chancellor Industries has always been a bloody battlefield, a coveted prize fought over by the most ruthless titans of industry. Recently, Billy Abbott believed he had finally secured his absolute place upon this corporate throne, wielding an ancient, unfulfilled loan from his late father, John Abbott, as his ultimate weapon. Billy's manic ascent to power was fueled by a desperate, consuming need to validate his existence, to step out of the suffocating shadows of his family's legacy, and to prove his countless detractors wrong. He paraded his newfound leverage with a reckless, blinding arrogance, convinced that he had brilliantly outmaneuvered not only Lily Winters and Kane Ashby, but also the formidable Jill Abbott. His delusion of invincibility was absolute, blinding him to the very real, very dangerous predators circling in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike and tear his ambitions apart. The psychology of Billy's obsession is a tragic, intricate tapestry of ambition and profound insecurity. For weeks, he has been riding a dangerous, intoxicating high, convinced that the sins of the past had finally aligned to grant him his rightful, undeniable inheritance. The discovery of John Abbott's loan to Philip Chancellor felt like a divine mandate to Billy, a historical correction that would finally place him at the helm of a legacy he felt he was born to control. He weaponized this information without a single thought for the collateral damage, alienating his siblings, terrifying his pregnant partner Sally Spectra, and declaring an all-out war on anyone who dared to question his supreme authority. Billy's hubris became his armor, a fragile shell of overconfidence that masked a deep-seated terror of failure. He failed to realize that in this ruthless town, absolute power is never simply inherited, it is violently seized, and those who claim it prematurely often find themselves standing on a precipice of their own making, entirely unaware of the impending fall. While Billy was busy measuring the drapes in the chief executive office and basking in the glow of his premature victory, a far more calculating, lethal force was quietly mobilizing against him. Victor Newman, the undisputed patriarch of Genoa City and a grandmaster of labyrinthine corporate warfare, observed Billy's manic parade with a cold, predatory detachment. Victor has never tolerated a threat to his empire, nor has he ever allowed an Abbott to claim a victory that could shift the delicate balance of power in the business world. Recognizing the severe danger of Billy's unhinged ambition, Victor did not react with loud declarations or impulsive, emotional threats. Instead, he retreated into the shadows, assembling a covert, elite team of the most ruthless and brilliant legal minds that unimaginable wealth could buy. This clandestine task force was given a single, explicit directive to permanently dismantle Billy Abbott's claim to Chancellor Industries, not through brute force, but through the surgical, undeniable precision of historical fact. The investigation launched by Victor's legal mercenaries was a masterclass in forensic accounting and historical excavation. They delved deep into the darkest, most forgotten archives of Chancellor Industries, sifting through decades of convoluted financial records, sealed corporate minutes, and buried personal correspondence between John Abbott and Philip Chancellor. Victor knew that a secret as monumental as an unpaid, company-defining loan would not exist in a vacuum. There had to be a counterweight, a hidden clause, or a forgotten addendum that could neutralize the threat. Days turned into nights as the legal team meticulously reconstructed the financial history of the two families, searching for a single thread that could unravel Billy's entire, carefully constructed narrative. The tension within the Newman camp was palpable, a quiet, deadly storm brewing as Victor waited with the infinite patience of a spider sensing a vibration on its web, knowing that the fatal blow was only a matter of time. The breakthrough, when it finally arrived, was nothing short of catastrophic for the Abbott legacy and Billy's fragile sanity. Buried deep within a misfiled dossier, obscured by years of complex corporate restructuring and intentional misdirection, Victor's legal team uncovered a hidden contract appendix. This fragile, aged document, bearing the unmistakable, legally binding signatures of the titans of the past, contained a revelation that fundamentally altered the history of Chancellor Industries. The appendix explicitly detailed that John Abbott's initial loan had, in fact, been entirely resolved. Whether through a complex repayment structure, a strategic forgiveness clause, or a mutual nullification agreement, the document provided airtight, incontrovertible proof that the debt Billy was using to hold the company hostage was legally and permanently void. John Abbott had willingly relinquished any future claim to the Chancellor Empire, a selfless act of corporate diplomacy that Billy's manic greed had completely misunderstood and exploited. For Victor Newman, the discovery of this definitive document was not merely a legal victory, it was a potent instrument of absolute, devastating humiliation. He could have chosen to handle the matter quietly, presenting the evidence to a judge in closed chambers to silently dismiss Billy's claim and restore order. But Victor's brand of justice is highly theatrical, designed to inflict maximum psychological damage and serve as a brutal, unforgettable warning to any future challengers. He orchestrated an emergency press conference with the meticulous precision of a military general planning a public execution. He summoned the most prominent members of the media, the entire board of directors of Chancellor Industries, and key figures of Genoa City's elite, ensuring that Billy's downfall would be broadcast to the world in real time. The atmosphere in the press room was electric, thick with anticipation and the palpable dread of an impending slaughter, as reporters whispered frantically, sensing that the tectonic plates of the corporate world were about to violently shift. When Victor Newman finally made his grand entrance, the chaotic murmurs of the press room instantly dissolved into a heavy, suffocating silence. He moved with the slow, deliberate grace of an apex predator, his very presence commanding absolute submission from everyone in the crowded room. He did not rush to the podium. He allowed the immense weight of his authority to settle over the crowd, his piercing gaze sweeping across the sea of flashing cameras and anxious, expectant faces. This was Victor in his truest element, the grand orchestrator of destiny, preparing to dismantle his enemy with surgical, unapologetic cruelty. The sheer physical dominance he projected was a stark, intentional contrast to Billy's erratic, frantic energy of the past few weeks. Victor stood before the microphones not as a man defending a rival company, but as an emperor protecting his realm, radiating a chilling confidence that signaled the absolute, undeniable end of Billy Abbott's brief and delusional reign. With a voice that resonated like thunder in the quiet room, Victor methodically dismantled the foundation of Billy's entire existence. He did not engage in petty insults or emotional rhetoric. He weaponized the absolute truth, presenting the hidden contract appendix with devastating, undeniable clarity. He detailed the exact nature of the document, explaining how John Abbott and Philip Chancellor had legally and permanently resolved the financial debt decades ago. Victor projected high-resolution images of the signatures, breaking down the airtight legal jargon that unequivocally voided any future claims of ownership by the Abbott family. He painted a vivid picture of John Abbott as a man of profound honor who had settled his affairs with dignity, sharply contrasting him with his youngest son, whom Victor subtly framed as a desperate, grasping opportunist willing to desecrate his own father's legacy for a taste of unearned power. The evidence was insurmountable, a concrete wall that instantly crushed Billy's fragile delusions of grandeur into dust. The ripple effect of Victor's revelation washed over the room like a massive tidal wave of realization and shock. The Chancellor board members, who had spent agonizing days worrying over Billy's hostile, erratic takeover, visibly exhaled, their postures shifting from defensive terror to vindicated relief. The media erupted into an absolute frenzy of flashing bulbs and shouted questions, immediately recognizing the magnitude of the corporate scandal unfolding before their eyes. Billy Abbott had not just been proven legally wrong, he had been exposed as a massive fraud, a man who had terrorized a legacy company based on a fundamental, humiliating misunderstanding of his own family's history. The credibility that Billy had so desperately tried to build, the image of the savvy, unstoppable corporate raider he had tried to project, evaporated in an instant, replaced by the pathetic reality of a man who had built a towering castle on a foundation of historical quicksand. The psychological devastation inflicted upon Billy Abbott in that singular moment is almost impossible to quantify. Watching the broadcast, witnessing his empire crumble in real time, Billy experienced a visceral, soul-crushing collapse of his entire reality. The manic high that had sustained him for weeks shattered violently, plunging him into a terrifying, suffocating void of total humiliation. Every bridge he had burned, Every relationship he had recklessly sacrificed, every vicious threat he had leveled against Lily, Kane, and his own siblings came rushing back to haunt him with agonizing clarity. He had alienated the mother of his unborn child, waged a bitter war against his own blood, and positioned himself as the undisputed king of Chancellor, only to have the crown violently ripped from his head and smashed before his very eyes. The ringing in his ears drowned out the chaos of the press conference. As the horrifying reality set in, he had absolutely nothing left. No company, no leverage, no credibility, and very soon, no allies to catch him as he fell. While Billy plummeted into a dark abyss of his own making, the power dynamics for Lily Winters and Kane Ashby shifted with whiplash-inducing speed. For weeks, they had been backed into a desperate corner, fighting tooth and nail to protect Chancellor from Billy's relentless, seemingly unstoppable assault. Victor's ruthless intervention inadvertently handed them the ultimate victory on a silver platter, removing the existential threat that had been suffocating them. The revelation of the voided loan provided Lily and Kane with the exact legal and public relations ammunition they needed to permanently purge Billy from the company's ecosystem. The dark, oppressive cloud of the Abbott takeover had been instantly dispelled, restoring Lily's absolute authority and validating Kane's fierce, unwavering resistance. Though they might harbor deep reservations about Victor's interference, they could not deny the absolute, undeniable advantage it provided, allowing them to finally secure the perimeter of Chancellor Industries against the chaotic, destructive force of Billy Abbott. Victor Newman did not conclude his press conference with a simple statement of legal fact. He delivered a chilling, calculated warning that echoed far beyond the walls of the room and into the living rooms of every powerful family in the city. Staring directly into the television cameras, his eyes devoid of any mercy or warmth, Victor issued a strict mandate to the business world. He declared that Newman Enterprises, and by extension, the rightful, established legacies of Genoa City, would never fall victim to the desperate machinations of unhinged opportunists. It was a thinly veiled, brutal message aimed directly at the heart of the Abbott family, a stark reminder that the Newman patriarch remains the ultimate arbiter of power. Victor used Billy's spectacular, public failure to reinforce his own supreme dominance, ensuring that the public humiliation of John Abbott's youngest son would serve as a permanent, terrifying deterrent to anyone who might harbor secret ambitions of challenging the established order. As the blinding lights of the press conference fade and the media frenzy spills out into the bustling streets of Genoa City, a suffocating, ominous silence descends upon the fractured Abbott family. Billy is left entirely isolated, stripped of his grand illusions, his fragile pride, and his envisioned future. The manic energy that once propelled him forward has mutated into a dark, desperate, and highly volatile despair that threatens to consume him entirely. A cornered animal is always the most dangerous, and Billy Abbott, having suffered the ultimate public execution of his character and his ambition, is now a man with absolutely nothing left to lose. As the shadows lengthen over the Chancellor estate, and Victor Newman revels in his cold, calculated triumph, a terrifying question hangs in the heavy air. What will a completely broken, deeply humiliated, and vengeful Billy Abbott do next? And who will be caught in the devastating crossfire of his inevitable, explosive retaliation?